This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, meeting to order at 7:04. Let's see, we have a roll call for my seated people.
Paul Varga.
Thank you.
Angie DeSanto.
Garth Bean.
One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we have enough for a quorum.
Do you want the alternates to say their names?
Excuse me?
I'm an alternate. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to say my name.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Christina. I haven't met you yet. Welcome, and welcome you. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 regular members.
Jesse's on here too, Judy. He just got stepped on, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Judy, I'm here. Jesse Burnham. I said my name, but I wasn't sure if.
Yeah, I didn't hear it too well. Okay, so I guess first line in order is for electing a chairperson. I guess we'll ask for nominations from the seated people, or
I'll nominate
anybody.
Judy Austin. Paul Varga.
Jesse Burnham, I second nominating Judy Austin.
Do we have any objections to motion?
Judy, you don't look so sure about this. Judy, you can
Yeah,
run.
well,
it's not too late, Judy. You can run.
that's all right. I understand the situation with the board. We have a lot of good people, but a lot of people don't have the time or aren't in town, so I don't mind. Just bear with me while I learn the position, that's all. Do we have a motion?
You have a motion and a second, Judy.
Okay. Paul motioned and Jesse was second, right?
That's correct.
You guys are kind of breaking up on me.
Hard to do.
Okay, the second item is to nominate.
Judy, just
on that, Judy.
point of order, I think you need a motion to close nominations. And then you signify by taking a vote, even though there's only apparently one nominee.
Actually,
Okay.
You're supposed to ask if there are any other nominations as well, and then you close it.
I believe I did ask, but
No,
are there any other nominations?
just a pro forma.
Can you repeat? Any more nominations? God, this is horrible. I can't hear. No nominations?
No, Paul gave me $10 not to mention his name, so.
Thanks.
And then Bill, I'm supposed to do a motion for this, or have somebody do a motion?
Judy, I'll move to close nominations.
Right.
Jesse Burnham, second.
Take your vote, Judy.
Okay. I guess we'll just go through the lineup. I'm having a horrible time here hearing.
I think something's going on with Angie's connection or her phone or something, or how she's
Yeah.
connected there. That's the noise I'm
Mine,
hearing.
can you
I
hear
think
me?
it's coming from Angie.
Can you hear me?
Is that Angie?
Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah,
now
that's
it's
me.
much
Can you hear
better,
me?
Angie.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
better.
I got
Much better.
I got my teacher voice on.
Okay, so let's have a vote on the nomination.
Actually, you have to take your vote on the nominations being closed.
Being closed.
And then you should be casting one vote because there's only one nominee. The chair can cast a vote.
Okay, I motion to close.
Yeah, I think you had a second too. Yeah, it's really broken up. The audio is very broken up.
Yeah, I don't hear
This is
half of this.
ridiculous.
Okay, let's bear with it. I guess I vote for myself and close the voting.
So Judy, I think you need to ask for you have the motion and the second, so you just need a vote. Yeah, everybody needs to vote to close nominations, and then we can vote
Yeah.
on the thing. So
Right.
yeah, so if everybody's in favor, we just say aye. So yep, aye there.
It should be the chair doing that.
Yeah, she has to do. You have to do that though.
Okay. So I'm closing the vote with asking everybody to vote on a nomination.
Actually, you have to have everybody vote on closing nominations first.
I'm asking everybody to vote on closing nominations.
All in
So
favor?
All in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, thank you, closed. Let's try this with the next one's the clerk. We have a nomination for a clerk. I nominate Paul Varga for clerk.
Jesse Burnham, I second Paul Varga for clerk.
Any other nominations for clerk? Andrew, are you trying to say something? Because I see your...
No, I'll cancel my thing.
Okay. So if there's no more nominations for clerk, I move to close the nomination with voting.
I'll make a
Can
motion to
everybody
close
see?
nominations.
Jesse Burnham, second.
Okay. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Jesse. Motion passes. All in favor?
Catherine,
Okay.
do we need to have another single? I'm confused about what
Yes.
needs to go next.
It's very straightforward. Okay, very straightforward. It is, you have nominations. You ask if there are any other nominations. You then ask for a motion to close nominations. You then vote on that motion. Then you can have the chair cast one vote if it's only one nominee, or you can all vote on it. But where you are right now is you have closed nominations. Okay.
Then we're going to vote on the nomination.
Great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passes.
I would also ask that you be mindful of you have a person.
Well, I didn't say aye.
Secretary, and you need to make sure you're clear with your motions for her.
I've got it because all the motions were made by Paul Farkas. So I have it all.
We should all be set right on this motion. I'm having a hard time hearing everybody if they voted aye.
Paul Varga, aye.
Angie Santo, aye.
Jesse Burnham, aye.
Garth Bean, aye. Yes.
Okay, motion passes with Paul Varga as clerk. Next on the agenda is communications.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can anybody hear me?
Yep.
Are we supposed to get a sixth member of our board? I thought somebody's. Yeah.
So we're going to address that a little bit later. I have to put that on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Catherine?
When you started the meeting, you had the opportunity to seat the alternate, and the alternate asked. So when we talk about a 6-member board, that would have been done at the beginning of the meeting. And when it comes to putting another person on the board, if you are doing that without having warned it ahead of time in your agenda, then I would think that wouldn't be appropriate.
I don't think I said anybody because I didn't know the 6-person rule.
You may want to look up that information for your next meeting.
She's talking about two different things. The 6th person on the board, it has to be addressed separately. She chose not to seat an alternate. You don't have to seat an alternate if you have a quorum. So
That's
it's
true.
two different things. Yeah.
That's
Angie's
true.
question.
However,
Angie's question was about, I think, the vacancy, which will be addressed later. Yeah, it has to be added to the agenda, but that's not to vote in the person. We have to add it to the agenda later, so under new business. So
Correct. Catherine?
so my comment about adding it to the agenda is that when you are adding a person to the board, it would be good practice, I would believe, to make sure the public knows that you're doing that during your meeting, and you would have warned it ahead of time. I noted in the past, whenever we have done that, that's what we've done. So to be above board.
So Catherine, isn't there a limited time frame to have this position filled?
Have you looked up what the time frame is? Have you talked
I
to
think
the
it says 21 days. Is that correct?
You look it up, you talk with the town clerk and make sure you know.
All right, communications. I apologize. I don't have any communications at this time. Next agenda item, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
Can I make a comment, question?
Sure.
I don't know if anybody's brought this up to you, Judy, but I know that it came up in the last Board of Ed meeting, that somehow the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed have ended up on the same schedule with the meetings, being, I think the Board of Finance, this is the second Thursday.
That was just October and November. I mean, yeah, October and November. It was an error apparently when the calendar was created. The Board of Finance meets on the first and on the second and the fourth, opposite the Board of Ed.
Moving forward, the Board of Finance is going to meet on the second and the fourth.
And perhaps more often during budget season.
Okay. I just know that the Board of Ed is concerned about that, so I just wanted to raise it. But if moving forward, it's going to be
Can somebody take?
I can't hear what's going on.
I'm missing this conversation.
Don, can you mute everybody?
I think Angie needs to mute herself if she's not talking. Should I try talking again?
Go ahead.
So if I'm hearing this correctly from Cheryl, there was a mistake in November, but moving forward, the Board of Finance is going to meet on the second and fourth Thursdays, except for when we meet more frequently, and that should be opposite the Board of Ed so that we're not having meetings on the same night. Did I hear that correctly?
That is normally how it is done, yes.
Okay.
So Christina, to give you a little information, I'm going to be working on that. Try to work on that calendar so that we can work with the school and perhaps have a different night. I'm not sure yet. I have to look at that. I mean, I'm just getting on here tonight as a chair, and I have to learn the role. But thank you. That's a good observation. Do we have any more public comments?
Yeah, Christine is right. Angie, could you mute your phone unless you're talking? Because I think there's a lot of background stuff. I think it's coming from your way.
There's no noise at all in this house. Nobody's here. So
Yeah, but maybe something with your connection, maybe? Just let's try it just for fun, because it looks like you're talking even when you're not, maybe.
okay.
Garth, it looks
Do you
like
have
you're
some-
muted.
It's what?
Garth, it looks like you're muted, but we can hear you.
Okay, so you want me to use my phone? Is that what you're saying?
No, Angie, just try to mute your microphone when you're not talking, because
Got
for
it.
some reason there's a lot of feedback. And it
Okay.
looks like it's coming from your computer. It
Okay.
shows you as talking when you're not. Yeah,
Much better. Any other comments from the public? Okay, next agenda item. Going to approve minutes of the regular meeting Thursday, October 7th, 2021. Does anybody have any remarks or see anything that they want to discuss, they disagree with from the minutes?
I thought they all looked good to me, Judy.
Is there a motion to pass the minutes?
Bill, did you have a comment? I don't think she saw you waving.
No,
I'm
I was just going to remind her that to call for a motion and a second, and then you could go into comments after that.
Angie DeSanto, I call the motion.
I'll
Point of
second
order.
it, Paul Varga.
Angie calling the motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Who seconded?
Angie,
Yeah,
did you call the motion to have the minutes submitted as
right.
written?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's second?
Paul Varga, I'll second.
Any comments? Vote to have the motion.
Aye.
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 Aye. Oh, excuse me, I have to abstain. I was not here for that meeting. So we have Jesse, Paul, Angie.
And
Oh, you know
Garth.
what? I don't think I was there either. So I went away,
Let me see.
so I have to abstain.
How many people present were Garth being? John?
Yeah.
You weren't, you're correct, Angie, you're not on it.
So you'll have to get somebody else to make the motion, I guess. I don't know.
You can make the motion. You just can't vote
okay.
on it.
Okay.
Judy, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Next item
You haven't,
is,
you were on mute. So we
oh,
haven't
I'm
had,
sorry, motion
we haven't had a
passes.
vote. How many people voted on that motion?
3. Jesse, Paul, and Garth.
Okay.
Motion passes. New business, selectmen's update.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'd just like to take this opportunity to congratulate all of those that are newly elected and to reiterate our appreciation for those of you who are continuing to serve and what you do to our community, for our community. I don't have much to report at this time, other than that there's been a smooth transition from one administration to the next. I appreciate Catherine's efforts to assist with that. I do want to emphasize that, you know, one of the main streams of what I was talking about during the election, and that is transparency and civility. And The only thing that I'm going to try to do my best to make sure that we maintain is both of those things. We're all in this because of what we feel are the best interests of the town. And I don't think there's any other motivations for that. We may have a difference from time to time on how we want to arrive at one thing or the other, but I'm confident that all of us that are in this position and have put our efforts forward for the benefit of the town. And I think that that's been evident over the years. We've got a wonderful community that we live in. We're in good financial state at this time, and I don't see any reason why anything like that would change. I'm a little disappointed that Mr. Funk couldn't be with us tonight because he certainly has contributed to the efforts of helping the process go along smooth, and over the years has been nothing but a very valuable resource to us. I noticed in a recent email that he sent out to everybody, he indicated that one thing that his desire was, and emphasized that we maintain that, is leave our politics at the door when we go into our meetings and just act for what we feel are the best interests of the town. And I think we do that 99.9% of the time. And I would encourage us all to keep that in mind. I know I'll do my part. I have an open door policy, and I'm a bit thick-skinned. If you have some criticisms, I would ask, or recommendations, I would ask that you bring them to me. And the best resolve is that if we all communicate well, and I intend to do my best to do that share of it. Other than that, the only other thing, and I believe it was Angie had mentioned it, is that I have been talking with the superintendent. I do intend on talking with the chairman of the Board of Ed and coordinating with Judy and Paul to make sure we don't have overlapping when we have meetings on the same night between the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed. It's problematic. All of our boards, of course, have a major role, but certainly the Board of Ed and the Board of Finance, if nothing more than on a finance perspective, are critical for coordination. And I have assurances from everybody that I've talked to on both of those boards that we're going to work to meet that, and if we can, improve the line of communication and availability. I know I've heard from the superintendent several times that his desire is to attend the Board of Finance. On example, tonight, he can't do that because there's a Board of Ed meeting. So I think if we put our heads together, take a close look at our calendars before we submit our new schedules to the town clerk, we may be able to work that out and iron out where we have these overlapping. The only other thing I'm going to say, I'm probably going to leave a bit early today because I am going to try to at least get in on the tail end of the Board of Ed meeting. But again, thank you for your service to the community. Let's work together in a civil way, and I'm sure the town will come out the best for it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, next line of business is a presentation and action of the request from the Board of Ed to utilize the assigned fund to upgrade security at the school. Dina, would you like to speak about the security system at the school, your presentation?
We have sent over 2 different proposals as part of the new business tonight. One, without going into too much detail, because of course security is best not seen, not known, just having it inside. So we're not going to make it all public. We do need to keep some of it under wraps. But what I can tell you is that one of the proposals is to increase the camera coverage of the building. There were some deficiencies that were noticed during the fall as we prepare for our security plan that's due for the state. So to that effect, we do have the need for a number of cameras in areas that do not have cameras, both indoor and outdoor. So it's to protect the security of the school building on the outside and the inside. The second proposal that you have in front of you is for allowing for, again, I can't go into too much detail about this in a public meeting. However, it is to allow for greater security on the inside of the building should there be an incident where we need, where we would need to stay secure. So this involves 3 different components: the installation, the programming, and the testing of all devices. So those are the 2 different proposals. An overview, if you will, please.
Okay. So we had the proposals from one company, Venture. Did you have other quotes? Do you have other
These
quotes available?
quotes are both from this company because they are the ones that have installed the initial systems, and these are upgrades to the current systems. This is not new systems or new hardware. So to keep it with the same company, it keeps everything under one roof. So, you know, we can troubleshoot it, we can repair it, we can have service to it, all with the same company. They are the one that was originally approved to do the work in the school back when the initial work was done.
Excuse me, could you tell me the name of the company, please?
It's Venture Communication and Security. They're out of Danielson, Connecticut. They are long-term partners with the school district in our security and safety plan for all of our students.
Okay, let's see. Go. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask? Dina?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this to you.
Deanna, Paul Varga, I'm just
Hi, Paul.
want to make on the quotes, it lists some exemptions. Are those items already taken care of previously, and that's why they're shown as exempt, like power to the boxes, etc., or are those going to be covered under something different somewhere?
Those exemptions, we either already have the infrastructure in place or the power or whatever it is, or the expenditures for that are such that we can cover it under our general fund.
Would come under like a maintenance line or something to that effect?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yes, Dina, this is Jesse Burnham. I had a question. You'd mentioned that in the very beginning that it was identified, but I couldn't hear. It was kind of broken up how it was identified that these extra security measures need to be taken place.
It was identified because every year in the fall, we have to update our security plan to the state of Connecticut. And during that exhaustive process, we have to provide certain inspections and walkthroughs, and just based on things that we have found, some fresh eyes looking at the system and the like, we did determine that there were some weak points. And before those are exploited, we just wanted to go ahead and make sure that we can close those issues.
All right. So I also was just curious, since Craig Preller submitted the information with his email about our standing policy regarding the 1% non-lapsing fund and how everything that money is used for needs to be identified in the 5-year campaign, and I didn't see any of it on there, so I just wanted to clarify about.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Can you repeat that, please, Jesse?
Sure. He sent out in the email our policy regarding the capital use of the 1% non-lapsing fund of the school, and how that it needs to follow the 5-year capital campaign. And I was just referencing the most recent capital projects list, and security wasn't on there, so I was just wanted to bring that up. But I do realize that you said that you just found this information out in the fall during the walkthrough. So
That is correct. School security is one of our top priorities.
Judy, I believe Catherine had her hand up. She had a comment regarding that.
Go ahead, Catherine.
I met with the school board in executive session to talk about this issue with the security. I won't talk about what was talked about during that meeting, but I will tell you that in addition to the fact that they have to file that annual security report and make sure the security is up to date, we did have a teacher accosted just outside the school in the parking lot as she left the Board of Ed meeting. Okay, we have camera footage of the person who did this, but we need to make sure that they're safe at the school and that we have good footage no matter what happens. So also I wrote the thing you have there for the 1% fund. And you have the power as the Board of Finance, and it's been done before, to approve something that is outside of what's on the capital improvement project. And, if you consider it to be wise to do so. So I just want to make sure that that's clear.
If I could just ask, Dina, how time sensitive is this? Obviously security is of urgency for anything for the protection of staff and our students there, but is there a deadline that you have to meet on this, or?
Yes, there is. There's a deadline for the report to be signed by all parties and returned to the state. That deadline, although I am not sure of the exact date, is coming up in the month of December.
I'm sorry, you were the month of what?
The month of December.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Paul Varga. So I'm just going to kind of lay it out in a simple form. The Board of Ed is asking for $18,707 to upgrade the cameras and the security system inside and outside the school. And
That
that's
is
going to come out of the Board of Ed's 1% fund, as we call it here.
Exactly, the non-lapsing.
Okay. The non-lapsing fund. Okay.
Isn't it no longer the 1%?
According to Connecticut General Statutes 10-248A, you can have a non-lapsing account anywhere from 1% to 2% now. 2% is allowed. That's a new addition just in the last couple of years.
Bill, our policy still states 1%. As Catherine said, she was, well, I think she was the chairwoman when that policy was written at the time. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood where it was actually coming from.
Yeah, it shouldn't be called the 1% fund. It should be called the non-lapsing fund.
Yeah, non-lapsing fund. I know we nickname everything.
Yeah.
But the statute is
a good idea to make sure that Bill
10-248A.
has a write-up. It might be a good idea to make sure Bill has a write-up on that.
I can forward you our policy, because the superintendent had sent it to the Board of Finance attached to that email. So I'll just say that given that it's the security of the school, and I think it's important, students and teachers and the public, who right now doesn't spend a lot of time there, but I'll make a motion that we approve the request that the Board of Ed has provided for the $18,707 for the upgrades as given in the proposal.
Second,
Angie beat me to it. Garth, third.
You there, Judy?
Yep, I'm writing a note, sorry. All in favor
Aye.
of the motion?
aye.
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 Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I just wanted to make a comment regarding this and another motion that we had a few months ago. I'd like to get back on track of trying to have a little bit more planning process. I understand this was kind of a last minute thing, but whenever there's anything that regards like a capital improvement, we really should be getting it so it goes through the capital committee and gets it on the sheet and has time so we can evaluate it.
Of course. Thank you for your feedback.
I agree, Jesse. I don't think any of us were aware of this until yesterday.
Does that include school stuff? I don't really know.
Yeah, the building belongs to the town, correct? So that would be, you know, I think what Jesse and we, as he said, we've discussed this before at our meetings, that sometimes we're getting stuff that maybe should have been identified previous to the budget or during the budget cycle for the capital improvements committee to look at. 100% agree. That this one I think is kind of tough in my mind because it's something that the school probably didn't even know about, and they just had an administration change as well. And I think the new superintendent is probably trying to get a fresh look at things. That's just my kind of take on it. And school security things change a lot and very fast. So
Okay. Let's see. Next on the agenda is a 2021 audit presentation by King & King and Association. King & King.
Hi, this is Chris. Now things are going to get exciting. We do have a presentation which we've done the past couple of years that I think Sean has. Can Sean be given the privileges to share his desktop so we can look at that instead of me? It is my audio okay? So the good news is, as we go through our presentation, you'll see there really are no huge items to deal with. We just have some small issues to discuss, and they're not, when I say issues, they're not all negative things or developments in the accounting world and things like that. And I do know that there are some new people here to the board, and looking at the audit report by itself can be daunting. It's gonna look at how many pages it is. It's about 84 pages long, and the general design of it is that it starts at a very summarized level called the government-wide financial statements, and then there's a second set of financial statements right behind it called the fund basis financial statements, which look a little bit more like what you're used to thinking about. At least it shows the general fund and other funds that you have, whereas the first set, it's government-wide, it's called, and everything is just crammed together. And I know that a lot of boards have a hard time getting useful information from that set of financials, so people often skim past that right to the fund financial statements. And then there are also financial statements that reflect your budget as you built the budget and it's reporting back. And often those budget statements are very similar to what you would be seeing Maybe the formatting is different, but the numbers are the same as to what you would be seeing at your monthly statements. So I can see Sean's got this up. I'll put it back to the front page there for a second, Sean. You can. So this is who we are. You know, we've met Cheryl out at Town Hall. You know, Sean deals with Dina. Just recently, just want to point out, Sean has been named a partner at the firm. So we've got 2 partners on the line tonight. It's a pretty expensive meeting. But we don't charge for this meeting. So, all right, now we can move forward. So again, the 84-page report might be a little daunting to go through. So we've gone to this summarized presentation. We do index it, cross-reference it to pages in the audit report. We also make this available so that you can share it. You guys can have it if you wanted to write notes in it or whatever, and so you could see the where the highlights are. But on page 12, which is one of those fund statements that I was telling you about, your general fund balance is just over 2.2 million. There are some breakdowns of what that represents. And that's the detail, pages 31 and 57. That's the notes section. As I said, the further you go into the report, the more detail you get. Your unassigned or unspoken for general fund balance, 12.8% of your annual budgeted expenditures. You have a policy, and it's in the notes in the audit report, that you've adopted, where you want your minimum fund balance to be between 10 and 15%. So you're right in the middle of that target range that has been set by the town. And then this next bullet item, this is one of the new things. GASB, the Governmental Auditing or Governmental Accounting Standards Board, issues statements, and statement 84 was implemented in your report this year. And one of the impacts is that we used to have a separate little fund in the report for contractor bonds, where you're holding bonds from contractors until the job is done. And if the job is done satisfactory, that you would return the bonds. Well, GASB 84 says that shouldn't be its own fund. So that cash has been moved into the general fund, but it doesn't impact your fund balance at all because it's offset with a liability back to the contractors. If you did need to take that money to finish a job up to code, then you would turn it into some revenue in the general fund. You do have a new major fund. These fund financial statements show major funds separately, and major funds can change because it's simply based on size. So you now have an ARPA grant fund, which this is the most common occurrence probably in the state of Connecticut this year. The ARPA money came in right before year end, just before June 30. I think it may have been June 20th. And so you had the cash on hand, but obviously didn't spend it, didn't delegate it out to any projects. So you have this new fund, the ARPA grant fund, with 629,000 in it. That represents the first payment. You should be getting a second payment for the same amount within the next year. And so we'll just sit on this for a while. The towns are, this is a big topic of debate with the selectmen, the boards of finance, on how to use this money. There are several categories of designated uses of the money. And then there's also another category called revenue loss, which is kind of a complicated situation, but you can do a calculation and determine that your revenue did not keep growing as fast as it might have without the pandemic. And if that calculation proves that out, then it releases that ARPA money for general use, and it's not restricted to some of the other rather specific categories that the grant normally requires. Now you have until I think 2022 2024 to spend the ARPA money. So you may be dealing with this for the next few budget cycles or years. So I imagine we'll be talking more about that. It's kind of a heavy topic maybe to drop on you for your first meeting. So I'll move on. One of the other major funds is the capital non-recurring fund. So you transferred in from the general fund $397,000 plus an insurance reimbursement that happened to come in. And you do have, again, further back you go, the more detail there is. Page 65 will show all the various project authorizations that you've made and how much the activity on those various authorizations. And we just mentioned that on page 14 is the revenue for those funds, and there's the LoCIP money is in the intergovernmental line. I'll move on here. Again, GASB 84 is kind of a big deal. It impacts some towns more than others. You now have what's called custodial funds. Sean, I think I'd rather have you address this because you dealt with this specifically with Cheryl, if you don't mind taking over.
Yep. Just before I take over, I just want to say this was the best audit process we've had so far in the 3 years we've been here too. Things have gotten a lot better, even with the software transition that the town and the Board of Ed had to work through. So with GASB 84,
Thank you, Sean.
you're welcome. With GASB 84, so you had to evaluate the agency funds, and then they were either special revenue funds, custodial funds, or they converted into the general fund. So your contractor bonds, that one moved into the general fund. And these 4 in the PowerPoint, those are part of the custodial funds. And then I spoke with Cheryl, and she would like if we could add a supplemental schedule to the back next year, just to break them out. Even though it's not required, it would make it maybe easier for her if people are asking her questions.
All right, so yeah, to say that you had a smooth audit process in the year of a software conversion is that doesn't happen often. So that's a good compliment for the town. So we continue. These page numbers, page 29, et cetera, these are the notes. So these are not financial statements. There are detailed notes that describe, for example, on page 29, your long-term liabilities. So you're paying down your general obligation bond. It was $225,000 in the past year. You're paying down some capital leases for equipment. And page 29, I'm gonna move to that on my screen.
I'll drag it over. Is that loaded?
Can I ask a quick question while you're doing that?
Sure.
Yep.
I think you said this, but I just wanted to make sure. The PowerPoint presentation that you're sharing, you'll give access to that, or how do we get that so we can refer to it in the future?
I sent the copy to Cheryl, but I can also send one to the board email.
I think that would be great. And then I don't know what the process is, but if the chairman can then share it with the rest of the board, I would appreciate it.
So we threw up that debt payment schedule, and you can see what the bond payoff requirements are in the future. It tails off pretty sharply after 23. So it shows it individually for the next 5 years, and then in groups of 5 years after that until full maturity. Page 33 and 39, people started to get interested in these numbers when the state government discusses potentially shifting the certified teachers' retirement liabilities to the town. We haven't heard so much of it, I don't think, very recently, but a year or two ago, there was a lot of talk about that. So GASB requires actually disclosure of both of those teachers' plans in your report, even though you currently have no liability. So we just put in here, and these are listed in the report, the pension liability associated with the teachers of the town is 13.7 million, of which you're currently responsible for none. And then there's also a health insurance benefit for retirees. The current liability associated with your school employees is 2 million. Again, currently no responsibility for that financially. So it's kind of just informational. It's both required, but informational for you since you have no share in the liability at the moment. Page 57 and 58, you actually have some components of your general fund. It's kind of sub-funds of the general fund. You're talking about, and it's listed here, the BOE non-lapsing fund. The BOE non-lapsing fund is a component of the general fund because under GASB, it doesn't qualify as its own separate fund. So you have this statement combining those sub-funds of the general fund into the main general fund. And then on page 64, we always look as part of the audit. It's funny, I like the Board of Ed comment that it's better not to share everything, but we do different tests on ratios, and we compare numbers to what we expect to see, what we see elsewhere. And one of them is taxes receivable. So your current taxes receivable is about 5% of your annual tax levy, and as long as that's below, I think 8% is kind of our industry average. We think that's a pretty normal percent. So again, like your fund balance ratio, your taxes receivable are kind of like right in the middle of what we would normally see. When it gets higher than that 8%, we start to do additional testing to try to figure out what's happening, what's causing that. So we said GASB 84 has been implemented. GASB is always coming out with new pronouncements, and there are no disclosures on that because some of them will impact you. So we list a few here. 87 on leases could impact you, and it's kind of a strange one. If the town was to lease a building, leasing space, historically it's been treated as a rent pretty much. You may have a 5-year lease and you have pretty much rent payments. After 87 is implemented, you will have to report an asset called the intangible use of the asset and then depreciate it. It's kind of vague, it's intangible, it's not a hard asset, and it's been delayed several times. The other ones, they're always issuing statements, really shouldn't impact you much, if at all. So you have every year a state single audit. So you have a core financial audit, and then the state requires that you have a compliance audit on its grants. You could also have a federal single audit, depending on, well, you will have one most likely when you start spending your ARPA money. But right now you have a state single audit, and that's a separate package, smaller package with its own reports and schedule. On page 6 and 7 of that, it shows you how much state money you spent. And on page 9 is our findings. We listed no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. So those would be the major findings, and no non-compliance. Those would be the things that really would need to be addressed by the town. You'd have to have a response and a corrective action. OPM monitors them. If you have repeat findings, they start contacting you and say, why aren't you resolving these issues? But we're happy to say that for 21, there were none of those items. We did have some other items in the management letter, which might be, is that the next page? Yep. And again, Sean was gonna go through these items.
Yeah, so we did have 2 other just kind of like comments to strengthen controls. They're not material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. One of them is at the library. The library director kind of had too much control over the check writing process. So we're just recommending that they get another person involved. So somebody off the board is going to sign the checks instead of the director. And then we have over at the BOE, we had a comment in the previous year just on like general ledger maintenance and monitoring for the non-general fund funds. And it's just a repeat this year. We'd like to see or utilize Infinite Vision. So we'd like to see student activities, cafeteria, and the scholarships all inside the Infinite Vision software. And Dina has already started doing that, and I believe she'll have it perfect for us for 22, right, Dina? Prior year management.
Ready to go.
And then prior year management letter was just talking about the student activity funds getting into a general ledger system, which we just touched on, and then Dina's going to have fixed for 22. And I believe that's it for that. So does anybody have any questions?
Well, I'll just add one couple things. Yeah, I don't, you may not all know, but you did have a cycle of turnover in the business manager position at the Board of Ed. So we were making recommendations, and then you were having new people in the seat in less than 12 months, kind of in succession. So I think hopefully now you'll have some stability and be able to just iron out these few issues that we had. Then the library, before everything was centralized with one person, it may be a little inconvenient to have someone else come sign the checks, but really that's a control. And sometimes strengthening controls is inconvenient, but it's really good for the integrity of the system. But so at this point, normally we turn it back over to the board chair, and if there's questions or any comments, we can try to go through them.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Christina.
What you just discussed, that the tax levy is 5%. Can you go over that again? How do you come to that 5%? And that strikes me as important, so I want to make sure I understand how you're getting that number.
So we just look at the total receivable balance for the 15 grand list years that are collectible, and then we compare that to what the current year's levy was.
Yeah, so if your delinquent taxes keep creeping up and up and up, that would be something that we would start to spend some more time, in the tax records, the tax office.
I have a quick question. Do you see that? I know you do other towns. Is that somewhat relevant to the COVID situation we've been in the past 18, 19 months from town to town regarding collections?
The collections didn't really get impacted too much in 21. They've been pretty consistent.
Animal.
The ratio we usually see is between like 2 and 8% of the current levy.
And the only other quick question, you had mentioned about the library. Have you taken that up with the library, or has that been addressed?
Yep. Yeah. So they're adopting a policy, and they've been made aware of it.
You took it up with the directors?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So our management letter comments that are already action has been taken on all of them already. So that's promising.
Very good.
Catherine, you have a question?
No, I just wanted to make a comment. The library director has, I think the point is making sure there's somebody available from the library board to sign the checks. That's more the issue. And So they are certainly working on that. The other thing is I wanted to thank Cheryl Baker, because as you'll note, there were no findings for anything that was going on in her department, which I'm not surprised. So I think she's done a very fine job. I know it's been a struggle working with a new system, but it's very good to hear this.
Any more questions?
I got one more.
Go ahead, Christina.
On the education budget having, I believe it's like $174,000 left over. And I don't know if this is more of a question for the Board of Ed, but maybe Dina can comment. That strikes me as a really significant sum. So where did all that savings come from?
So we have seen a lot of boards of education that came in under, sometimes it was transportation, depends on when they were closed. A lot of field trips and things like that
The
couldn't
state,
have.
the state's been pumping a lot of grant money in too. That has kind of offset some of the costs.
That's true. So they've been using ESSER money,
Yeah.
all these new acronyms. And actually, probably it's better for maybe Dina to address that.
I think you've pretty much hit a lot of the areas. It's definitely the transportation costs are down. The employment costs are down. We didn't go on field trips. It wasn't feasible. It wasn't smart. We wanted to keep everybody healthy. So we really buckled down, and we kept a lot of people out of the school that would come in and bring programs. So we had budgeted for those programs, but of course we couldn't do them. So it's just a lot of little things here and there that added up. And of course, part of the problem, not part of the problem, excuse me. Another area was when we had free and reduced lunch for everybody, free lunch for everybody. We had less operating costs in the cafeteria area. So there were a lot of different things that came into that $174,000 savings.
Thanks for that clarification. And so that money, that $174,000, will go into the non-lapsing fund. But I believe in Craig Preller's letter, it says that, well, my daughter has to come say hi right now. So I believe in his letter, it's that amount is more than 1%. So do we have to change, does the Board of Finance have to change its policy in order to accept that sum, given that it's more than 1%?
So it doesn't automatically drop in. The Board of Finance has to approve up to 1%, which is your current policy, 1% to go into it. If whatever does not go into the non-lapsing fund will fall right back into the general fund.
So is that something that we have to do at a different meeting to handle that money?
I would think it'd have to be on an agenda.
Yes, Christina, that's
Because I
something
guess it's important, right? It determines whether that money can go towards the school in the future or whether it goes into the general fund of the town.
right. So right now it's in our unassigned fund balance. It's just it has to be taken out of there. So right now the policy is 1%. And so it would take a change to the policy, and then it would go into the non-lapsing fund to be used for the things that are designated it can be used for. But that's for another meeting. It has to be warned in the meeting.
Judy, I think Catherine has her hand up.
Catherine, go ahead.
If I could clarify a little bit, Yes, you would have do that in a separate meeting. It's done after the audit is fully completed. That's when you have, finalized numbers to work with. But the other thing too is that the Board of Finance traditionally has also looked at any extra money that's left over, so to speak, as being something that could also be put into the capital non-recurring fund. And you would have a special motion to do that as well. So what you'll end up doing is looking at what is the total amount of overages, whatever, underspent, and then decide how much should go into the non-lapsing fund, and then hopefully how much will go into the non-recurring fund, the capital non-recurring fund, because you need to keep financing that fund through whatever means you can.
Dina, I have a question. I know it's not related to the audit report, but since I have your ear, has there been any influx of money from the American Relief Fund specifically for the Board of Ed?
Yes, we have our own allotment. It's 453,000 to address learning loss and recovery.
Only?
Yes, we have a 3-year plan on how that money is to be spent to address the students that were left behind, the flailing test scores, etc.
Now, is that paid to you in one payment, or is that spread over 3
It
years?
is spread over 3 years, and it is paid to us monthly as we make the expenditures.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy, I have a question. It's really for Chris and Sean. There's a lot of numbers here, and some of us are fairly new at this game. So as we look through it and we have questions, do we put them through Judy, the chairperson, or do we have an email to get in touch with you directly? What's the best method, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, I think normally it would be best to put it through the board chair. So then we don't have a whole bunch of different.
Yeah, a whole bunch of separate emails. Okay.
Our emails are on the PowerPoint too. I'll send that over.
I did. I mean, I've read them over, but there's a lot of numbers, and like I said, being new to it, it's a lot of stuff to digest in one shot here. So,
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have anything?
Judy, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Or maybe a statement. The audit report needs to be completed and filed by December 31st. Filed with everybody it's supposed to be filed with, if I understand correctly from memory. And what the Board of Finance typically does is it approves the report. We've always done a formal approval of the report. That's not for tonight by any means, but you have to have all your questions answered. And Chris, if I understand correctly, you would have to put everything through a final review with your firm, correct? Before it's
We've already done that.
Okay, good.
What you have is prepared to be filed unless there were some change to come up, at your review. So we can file. Generally, the boards will accept the report. There's discussion of approve or accept. Generally, they say accept because you can't. It's hard to disapprove of an independent audit.
Understood.
But we could file, tomorrow. We'll just wait for the town to tell us that we're ready to go.
They're ready to accept. Understood.
Right.
All right. And so I just wanted to make board members aware that there's a timetable involved.
And OPM has an electronic system. We no longer have to do the hard copy. So we transmit it into the system. It shows up on the same day. And then all the various agencies can access it from the OPM repository.
Welcome to the 21st century. Thank you.
So if I may, it's okay for you to accept it tonight. You only have one more meeting scheduled for this calendar year. So Uh, I think it may be a good idea to accept it tonight if you can, in case you don't have a quorum or something comes up for your next meeting. Entirely up to you.
I think that's a good idea.
I'm okay with that. We'll make a motion to accept unless there's more discussion. Anybody have discussions or concerns that we should wait?
I'm a little concerned because I don't know that everybody's actually had a chance to look at it for themselves. I mean, I know I looked at it and.
Right, and it has been available.
Yeah, no, I know it has been. I picked it up from you, Cheryl. I'm just saying that, you know, I'm comfortable with it. I think it looks okay from what I've seen. Nothing stood out and hit me in the face, but,
And I just
you do bring up a
also,
good point that there's only one more meeting though, so.
right, and if you don't get that meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, please. I think we would have to file for an extension.
Right, and Paul, if there was a change to be made, we can file an updated copy.
Okay, so if we were to accept it tonight and then we find something that's glaringly wrong or obvious or something like that, we would come back to you and
We can fix it and re-upload it.
make an update. Okay, amend it. Okay.
I think you need a motion.
Okay, motion to accept and approve the audit as is.
Jesse Burnham, so moved.
Paul Varga, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes.
Judy,
Yep.
this is Bill. I'm going to jump off and try to get into the tail end of the Board of Ed meeting, but I, again, wanted to thank everybody and job well done there, gentlemen, on the audit.
Thank you.
Cheryl, good job. Good night, folks.
Thanks for your support, Bill.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, and thank you for having us as auditors, and we'll look forward to next year. We'll talk about how you're spending your ARPA money.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, guys. Very good presentation. And thank you, Cheryl, for all your hard work.
You're welcome.
Judy, before we move on, I don't know how this works, but we need to have I guess I'll make a motion to add an item to the agenda to address the missing board member. I
Open
can't even, my
position.
brain's not functioning at the moment.
The vacant
The
position.
vacancy, that's what I'm trying to say. The vacancy. So I'll make a motion, we add that to the agenda under new business.
Yes.
Second, Angie DeSanto.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, there was one more item. Maybe I'll save it for the next meeting. I wanted to talk about the procedure on changing the 1% to the 2% and the funds for the school, but maybe we can save that till December to talk about. So,
I think that should probably, I agree with Catherine, that should be put on an agenda so that people know
Yeah,
about it. And then if
for
they have something
December,
to say,
yeah.
they can, yeah. So that, when you get to the, whatever it is, we can add that.
Yeah, I think that's number 9. Okay, this is a second opportunity for the public to have comments.
We need to go back to the vacancy because we have to figure out the,
Oh.
Where are you adding the vacancy thing to the agenda? I know
under
you
new
read the
business.
motion, but you haven't indicated where.
Yeah, under new business.
Under new business.
Yeah.
For the next meeting or this meeting?
This meeting.
This meeting.
Okay.
This meeting.
This meeting?
So according to the statute, the board has to have a special meeting. Is Cheryl still here? Is that correct, Cheryl?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess it's you and John is who has to coordinate the video part of it.
Yeah, well, go ahead and tell me when you want your special meeting. Actually, let me contact John.
I have a question. A special meeting for what?
For the vacancy. We have a vacancy for a 4-year term.
Oh, yeah, I mentioned it 2 hours ago, but, so in other words, we can't do it today?
Need a
Correct.
special meeting.
Is that true?
Correct.
Correct. We have to make a special
Okay, so
meeting.
I do have a question though. I have a question. Okay, can we
Go
hear
ahead.
me? Okay. Last year, Carl passed, and so his regular membership was up. I was not at that meeting, and somehow John was put in, I think, for Carl's position. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And then Paul was put in as a, what do you call those?
The
Alternate.
at a special town meeting.
Alternate, because John was an alternate, so now Paul became an alternate. Is that correct? Okay. Can you tell me how that went? Did you have a special meeting? Because I never got any notification that there was a special meeting.
I'm sorry, Angie, I missed the question. Oh, I see Catherine has her hand raised, though. She heard it.
Catherine, go ahead.
Judy, if you don't have the answer to that, I do.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Okay, so to put an alternate on the Board of Finance, you need to have a town meeting. To put a regular member on the Board of Finance, you can do it yourself.
With a special meeting? Is that what you're saying? With a special
Yes,
meeting?
you'll have a special meeting to fill that seat of a permanent member, a full member.
Right. So neither of those happened last year because I did not get any notification there was a special meeting for the alternate, right? And I don't remember.
It wouldn't have been a special meeting. It was a town meeting.
Okay. Town meeting, meaning people can come from the town?
It was
Okay.
properly warned, yes.
Right. And so we would have been notified of the town meeting somehow, Board of Finance, right?
Everybody in town was notified of the meeting.
And we were notified about that. You're saying that
Yes.
happened last year, right?
It has to be warned through public media. Okay. You might not have, you wouldn't have received a special invitation being a Board of Finance member.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, so where you are right now, if I understand correctly, is you need a special meeting to put a full member on. And if you're bringing on any alternates, you need to have a town meeting.
So I still have a question. So I would have gotten a meeting about the alternate, right? It was, I forgot.
That was a town meeting.
Okay, what about the regular member? The regular member did happen. How was that? How did that happen? At a meeting of ours?
Yes.
Does Valerie have notification that happened? I just don't know when that happened. How I could have missed it.
It would have been in your agenda and it would have been in your minutes. And
Right. Does anyone remember being there at a meeting where these things were discussed?
No.
At a town meeting when
No.
Paul was recognized as the alternate? Anybody remember that meeting?
No.
Yes.
No.
So, Paul, were you at a meeting where you were given the opportunity to be the alternate?
Absolutely.
Was it?
Special town meeting run by Catherine Silversmith herself.
There you go.
I swear to God, it was on the up and up.
I'm trying to find the special meeting notice for when they moved John into Carl's seat.
I think it was
it's
April
taken a minute.
16th.
Was it? It's taken a little bit. I'm trying to do two things at once here.
So if you want to pick a date for your special meeting, John can let you know if there is availability.
I know Sherry's not here, but I know the alternate position is a 21-day number, but I have not found anything in the statute for the full member. There is no time slot. Is that from your recollection, Kat? Yeah. Is that correct, Catherine, from what you remember?
Yes.
Okay. I just don't want people to think we have to jump through this super fast.
I'd also
That's
like,
all.
I'd like to make sure that people are aware when you're doing it.
Right. That's the other thing too. And with the holiday coming up, I don't think it's fair, Judy, that we make everybody jump around and make us do a surprise. It doesn't look good either. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, for the amount of time it will take to, vote at a special meeting for that particular item, we could hook it up to our next meeting and have it after, if you want. I mean, if everybody thinks that it would be more prudent to have it the same night.
Yeah, what about like right before? Would that be, or before might be better just because you'd have it done?
We could do it before too. I mean, that would.
Question.
Before.
It's April 8th. Sorry.
Okay, so I still have a question. Okay, so Catherine, you did a special meeting, right? That had the alternate with Paul being put in, and that was true.
That is true.
That was, and we have records of that and all that. Okay, and
course.
in the Board of Finance, we had a meeting where John was put. Okay, now my third question is, do we have to how do we get this other person to come on to the Board of Finance with, as the regular membership?
Anybody can volunteer.
Okay, and then we vote on it, like 7 people want to go, and we say which of the 7 we want?
Mm-hmm.
That true?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I did find it. It was April 8th was when John Kopek was
elevated
to a regular member.
I must have been away.
Hey guys. You want to tell it? Did you find it, Cheryl?
Oh, yeah. That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
Do you guys want to pick a date so John can let you know if he's available to facilitate the meeting?
You're on mute.
Okay, here I am.
Did you want to try to do it? Our next meeting is December 9th. Regular
Yeah,
meeting.
I'd like to try to do it at the same night. Before might be better for the public.
Is there anything not
what do you
okay
guys
with that?
think?
Catherine or Cheryl, is there a reason that wouldn't be a good idea?
I can't see a reason. What you want to do is, maybe it's a half-hour meeting, I don't know. But you definitely have to warn that one as a special meeting, and then you'll have your other meeting is warned as a regular meeting.
Correct.
I think that's actually what they did looking at that date. I believe that's what happened when they elevated John. They,
I believe so too.
yeah, they had it at 6:50, but so 10 minutes, but maybe give it 15 or 20 because we're new.
No, you know what? You may have multiple people who are interested.
Right. So
I
yeah,
would give
maybe you're right. Maybe half hour.
I'd give it half
I would
an
give
hour.
them a half an hour.
So, John, does that work?
So I'm sorry, you're just talking about starting the regularly scheduled December 9th meeting like a half an hour earlier?
It would be a special meeting. Yeah,
No, I'm
no,
sorry,
it would
a special
actually be a
meeting,
special meeting at 6:30,
right?
and then the regular meeting at 7.
Right, but just from a scheduling perspective, yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so are we all set with this topic? So I have to motion, right?
I don't know. I don't think you need a motion for that.
No, just for the agenda item. We already did that. Okay. Second opportunity for the public.
I applaud you on your efforts to get your board together. You're going to have a very tough budget year. I would suggest that you get started on the budget process as soon as possible. Make sure that you understand what was in the previous year's budget so that you can assess when people are coming to you with their requests. So, and I wish you luck with that.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, so agenda items for the next meeting for December 9th. To review and fill the vacancy for the 4-year position that's open.
That's actually the special meeting, Judy, I think. So it's separated out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got too many things. So one of the agenda items I wanted to talk about was the procedure adding the 2%.
Yeah, changing that.
At least discussing in further detail the options to see where we should go with that. I think tonight it's just we need a little bit more information on how that whole process will work as far as, having the extra revenues that we're going into the non-lapsing fund and stuff. It just needs to be thought about a little bit more, I think.
Let me know if you need any help with that. You'll also see that it's more than 1 year is considered when you're putting money into the non-lapsing fund. We tried to make it so that it would be something that was, in a sense, easily controlled by the Board of Finance. Okay, and that made sense. So I'll be glad to help with that.
One of the questions I had, Catherine, which might be off a little, and you can tell me, I'm sure, if I am, but the funding that they have left over, the 174 is like a $500,000. That money, if it didn't go into their funding, the 2%, well, the 2% fund that they want, and we gave it back to the town, is that something that we could think about to help us in the future? Because we're looking at a $2 million minimum this year
So this is where I can speak to it, and I can tell you that Ralph Fletcher spoke to it many times when he was first elected. Is that when you first of all, the money goes back into the general fund. Then you figure out, and it can go into the unlapsed fund. Okay. But it's in the general fund because it never came out of it when all is said and done. So when you try to take money from the general fund to offset taxes, it's like taking money out of your savings account to pay for your monthly electric bill. So you have to be careful about not going into a slippery slope here where you start doing that. That was something that was done before, and it never ends well. Let me tell you, because the next year you have the same problem again because the expenses still don't change. Okay, so I really want to caution you about using that approach to reduce taxes. Or let's not even say reduce taxes, let's say to maintain a tax rate that you feel is responsible. So I would definitely advise you not to try to do that. Also, with your capital non-recurring fund, that's where those, many, many years ago, when what we used to do is we used to have town meetings to approve every single expenditure over $20,000.
Catherine, could you hold on one second? Just for a second. Angie, could you mute your phone, please? Thank you.
Is there anything you missed? Okay, so we used to have a town meeting, like it was many years ago, because I know we changed it when I was on the board, where the capital improvement plan for the year really wasn't laid out very well. And there wasn't really a true 5-year plan where you could see that there was going to be some costs going forward. So that capital non-recurring fund isn't a fund that just magically appears. It's where some extra monies go so that we don't have, I'm going to call it spikes in our tax rate because we needed to buy a new fire truck. Okay, we plan it out, and what you need to do is you need to make sure you've got funding available for those things and that you keep that funding relatively stable over time. So what we've done over the years is we've made sure that we looked at our fund balance to see if it exceeded the threshold of 10 to 15%. And if it did, we would take whatever exceeded and put that into capital non-recurring. And the same would go for any other monies where we underspend. So if there's something left over from the town budget, the general budget, then we would look at putting that into capital non-recurring. So I hope that is reasonably clear. Yeah, you're going to make the decision, but when you do, you have to think about the consequences. And if you borrowed from if you took money, you're not borrowing it. If you took money from your savings to pay your monthly electric bill, you wouldn't have much savings over time because your electric bill is still going to be as high as it was. Okay. Any additional questions?
That was a good explanation, Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This document that actually the superintendent emailed, it's the unexpended education funds account effective February 19th, 2015, approved by Ashford Board of Ed, or Board of Finance, sorry. So this is a policy of the Ashford Board of Finance. Is there like some catalog somewhere that has all these policies? Or is this all buried in minutes that we have to dig and find?
If you look at the, Judy, can I respond to that?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so Christina, I don't know if you've looked at the previous budget, but you'll see that there is there's a letter from the board chair, finance board chair, and there's also a copy, there should be a copy of the policies and monetary governance that was put together through the Board of Finance. So that's where our policies are about doing things like transferring money into CNR. I think there's something in there about the 1% fund. I'm pretty sure there is. I'm trying to think of what else we have. We have one of the things that helped us with our audit, oh my God, why am I forgetting? The rating we have for getting loans. You know, years ago, I'm sorry, say it again, Cheryl.
It's Moody's bond rating.
The bond rating. One of the aspects of us having such a good bond rating was the fact that we didn't do things like take money from the undesignated fund to reduce taxes. And also that we were, you know, we had these policies in place. And I'm trying to think, there was one other one. So a number of years ago, there's a little story. I heard that in Rocky Hill, they put money into CNR because what it does is it earmarks it for particular things. And they did that to protect the money from lawsuits where you could go after, anybody who's suing can go after the money that's in the undesignated fund. So what you want to do is you also want to protect the money. Now they could try and get it, you know, from CNR. If we lose the lawsuit, you'd have to take it out of there, but it's not what they look at for our assets, so to speak. So
if I guess I'm looking on the website for the Ashford Board of Finance.
Look at the letter, and right after the letter, you should see policies and procedures. You'll see something about what the financial calendar is, so to speak. It should be there.
All right. Well, I'll dig through it, and if I don't find it,
give me a shout. I can help you with that.
Yeah, we can all give you a hand outside of the meeting, Christina. If
right.
All right.
It takes a little digging, but it's in there, Christina.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried to make it right after the board chair's letter, so that everything's together from the Board of Finance at the front of the package.
I think for Christmas we need to get Christina a headset. You know, like
Why do I need a headset?
And actually, Garth, you show up as on mute, and you're not.
Well, there's a reason for that, Christina. Just because the audio quality could be better, and I'm kind of an audio quality. But Catherine,
Audio quality any good? I'm sorry, I didn't know.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I dial in twice. I use my computer so I can see things, like when they're sharing stuff. But the audio on my computer isn't great because the headset goes to my work computer, so I dial in with my phone. That's why I show up twice.
Yeah, I just want to make sure your phone is muted when you want it to be muted.
Oh, yeah, I know. Don't want to hear me yelling at my kids.
Okay, are we all set? Do we have any more questions?
I just have one thing. My battery is going, and I plugged it in and it's still not doing anything, so I have to leave a little early. Thank you all, Judy. Good luck. You're doing well so far. We'll see you next time. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.
So that was the next item, was the remarks for the good of the board. I've been on this board for quite a few years, and when I first started, Chuck was on the board with me. I thought he did an amazing job. I respect Chuck. I can't say enough about him, and I will miss him. That being said, I've also been on the board with a lot of amazing people. One of the big things I look at is respect. And I expect everybody on the board to be respectful to each other and respectful to other boards. I can't tell you how much that means when we're trying to build this team to be working with other teams on a board basis. We don't want any, how do you say it? Like Chuck said, we don't want any parties involved. We really want to look at our citizens and do the best we can for them. And I think everybody on this board intends to do that, as well as I. I will try my best. I know I will fumble, but I'll give it my best shot and have a great team. Thanks, and have a great Thanksgiving, I hope. And the new people like Christina and Hugh, welcome. We look forward to working with you and your ideas. Everybody will be heard. And that's all I got. Anybody else have anything to say that they would like to contribute to the good of the board? Okay.
What?
We will
Thanks for
adjourn.
stepping up, Judy.
I was kind of the sacrificial person, and I knew I would get grief from certain people.
Somebody had to do it. If nobody else has anything, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. Thank you, guys.
Need a
Okay.
second?
Who else thinks
we need
Bill
a second.
Folletti just signed off to take a nap? I think he looked too comfortable in that chair, don't you? He's got the
We need
most
a
comfortable
motion to-
chair of all, Bill Folletti. I think he just went to take a nap.
We need a motion to adjourn. Who seconded it?
I'll
Who
second it.
seconded the motion? Okay.
Jesse.
Was that Jesse?
Was Jesse.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Night.